Alec Murdaugh underestimated those that were closest to the victims in this case, the caretakers and the family members. And we're going to talk about some of the highlights from their testimony right now. Hello everybody and welcome back to the sofa. That's the sofa behind me. Actually a little bit of a chair as some have pointed out, but nonetheless it's a sit-in situation. And that's our mascot, Mr. Roscoe P. Coltrane. He's holding the Sofa Squad down for us, and my name is Paul. Thank you to everybody who makes the Sofa Squad possible. Special shout out to the top tier Patreon members, as well as all the other Patreons, channel members, and everybody who likes, discusses, and talks about the case in the comment section and shares the video and interacts with it. I greatly appreciate it. And also, for making the stories of the victims and their memories and their lives still prevalent and still out there for all of us to remember them by. Now today we're going to continue talking about the Alec Murdaugh trial. It is currently going on. It's February 2023. The very quick version of this, because honestly there's not a quick version of it, but he is on trial for allegedly taking the life of his wife Maggie and their son Paul. He is a disgraced attorney from South Carolina. The Murdaugh name goes generations back. Very prominent, very well-to-do, and tons of financial crimes behind his name. Lots of scandal at this point. So much has come out. And this is just turning into an absolute dynasty, Dallas kind of a trial, right? And so what we're going to specifically talk about today are three different bits of testimony. The caretaker of Miss Libby, his mother, the lady who took care of the house, watched after them over at the estate where these crimes took place at, and then we're also going to hear from Maggie's sister herself. I've just picked out a few clips that I wanted to discuss and use those as, discussion points and whatnot. So that's the style of this video. If you don't want to hear me talking and blabbering and interrupting that, you can go to Law and Crime and look at this in full and look at their testimony in full and come to your own opinions and decisions on that. And that's it. So let's go ahead and dive on in.
At some point on the evening of June 7th of 2021, did you see Alex Murdaugh?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember what time it was? Approximately.
The game show was on, so it had to have been 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9:30, somewhere up in there.
Okay, now again, this is the caretaker for Miss Libby. Again, I'm going to do it. Alec's mother. If you watch my other video, I continually kept calling Alec Paul. My bad. I apologize. So the lady we are hearing from, she was looking after Alec's mother. Remember, she has Alzheimer's. She's not well at this point in time, the time they're discussing. And she would sit overnight with her. So one important thing to listen to, and the reason I put this clip up, is the times. And we'll hear how this becomes prevalent in a few clips, but this is just building the foundation, so let's continue.
Was it unusual to see Alex Murdaugh at that residence that time of night?
Yes, on my shift, yes.
And that's the only shift you'd work?
Yes.
Now, again, you hear her saying, yeah, it's unusual. This was kind of odd to see him there on her shift. Remember, it's 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning. And so this was where he went over there during this time. Now, again, if you look at it two different ways, it could be authentic that he went over to the house to check on the mother because she wasn't doing well. And, the father's not there, and so she's all out of sorts. And, he went over to see how she was. Or he was creating an alibi. As we hear what her testimony is, and we will refer back to other things that he has said in his own testimony, things don't really add up.
When he got there, can you tell the jury what happened?
He called the house and told me he was outside.
Right. He called the house?
Mm-hmm, yes.
What phone did he call? Terrible question. I mean, was it your phone, the house phone?
The house phone. The house phone.
Okay. And when you answered the house phone, what did he say?
He was outside. They let him in.
He was at the house?
Yes.
Right outside the house?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And he called you?
Yes.
And he said, let me in?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And after he called you, how long did it take you to go open the door to let him in?
About 5 minutes.
So he was right there?
Mm-hmm.
At the house?
Yes.
Okay, so he's making this big point. So he was there, right at the house, right there. You let him in. So, she's like, yeah, he called. He was outside and went and let him in. They're just establishing this to make sure everyone's where they said they were, because once we start peeling away the layers of this onion, if you will, and on the time of it, and again, what the evidence shows, the math ain't mathin'.
You let him in?
Of course, yes.
Okay. Do you remember what he was wearing?
Shorts and a t-shirt.
Do you remember what kind of shoes he had on?
Those cloth shoes, like Sperry's, that type of material. Like Sperry's, that type of material, cloth shoes.
Cloth shoes?
Yeah, like cloth. Yes.
Okay, again, so she is establishing here the clothing that he's wearing. So when he shows up to the house, he had already changed clothes. Now remember this timeline. And I go back and forth with this timeline, and I don't have an official one here on my channel. There's other channels and news outlets that have done these official things. But remember, he was wearing that, work clothes, if you will, the khakis and blue shirt in the Snapchat video from earlier. When 911 when the police arrive at the scene of the crime, he's wearing what sounds like she's describing the outfit that he has on, the white shirt and all this kind of stuff. So what it looks like, if we go down the path of he did this, is that he did the crime, changed clothes, and then went to the mother's house wearing these clothes. Now this becomes important when you start trying to piece together, well, where did he have time to do this, that, and the other? And this is where I do have some questions with the timeline, because I'm like, he had to do a whole bunch of stuff in a very short amount of time. Now this does not mean that I think, oh, well, I don't think he had anything to do with it. My red flag radar goes completely off, but that doesn't mean that I still don't have lots of questions, even though the state has rested.
Could you describe Alex Murdaugh's demeanor on June 7th when you were there with him and his mother, Libby? How was he acting?
Like, fidgety. This came in,
Speak up, please.
fidgety, I'm thinking it's normal.
Now, one thing I thought was interesting that she said here is fidgety, vacant. I think she said like normal. And to me, he seems like somebody who that would be his norm. Now, again, if he's strung out on these pills the way he claims to be, I'm like, he probably was kind of fidgety and vacant all the time, because he was probably either off in his own world or coming down or thinking about getting to his next pill or whatever, right? So that doesn't really strike me as anything. It would almost make it more weird to me if she was like, oh, he was like oozing with love and this and that was not normally how he was. That would be weirder to me at this point, right?
Did he tell you why he was there?
No, he just came to see his mother.
Okay. Did he talk to his mother?
Mm-hmm, but she was asleep, yes.
She was asleep?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what did he do? What did Alex Murdaugh do when his mother was asleep?
He came and sat on the bed, because we was asking me while I was watching. I said, American Says, I said, a game show.
Did he say anything to his mother?
We said, hey, Mom, how you doing? Just came to check up on you. Yeah.
Did he say why he'd come to check up on her?
Because Dad was in the hospital, called him Hansel. He was in the hospital.
Okay, now here we're going to pose the first question, but obviously we have about 10,000 over here on the sofa at this point. So Alex testifies in other areas and other, videos and whatnot. He's saying, what? And the whole MO of the evening was he's got to go check on his mother. That's why Maggie has come over. She's going to go with him over there. Well, then we hear from this lady who's they're caring for her. She's like, well, yeah, the mother was asleep. Didn't even really know he was there. And, not much was said. He's on the bed on the phone. So, and again, Maggie's not there. Obviously, we know this and we know why at this point, right? So this is where I'm just like, well, hold on. I thought it was such a big deal, that like the mother was all out of sorts and this, that, and the other. And that doesn't mean she might have been earlier, but I feel like we would have heard testimony saying the mother was just, I called Alex, or he needed to come over. But nothing of the sort.
And in your opinion, as being there, her caregiver, did she even know that he was there?
No.
Yes.
So here we have it. I spoke a little too soon, but here she is saying, didn't even know he was there. So this is where the story starts to fall apart to me. It's not that normal for him to be over there. He was going to go see, the mother. Maggie was going to go with him. And, but now she didn't even know it was there. This didn't seem like there didn't seem to be a dire need for him to get over there, as we're hearing and will hear from other testimony, like from her sister.
How long did he stay in the room with y'all? I say y'all, for the record, you and Miss Libby, I apologize.
About 15 to 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
Okay, this is imperative because we're going to hear numerous different times, right? Now, if you listen to the interrogation or my video interrogation, however you listen to it, he throws out a totally different number in there, and we're going to hear her say a different number too later on, but not from her mouth, from what Alec basically insinuated to her. So again, keep this in mind. She's saying 15 to 20 minutes, and then she said 20 minutes. So she's even giving him an extra 5 minutes, right?
Repast, visitation. Where were you? And I said, what was your job during that, or what were you doing during the visitation?
I was in the room with Miss Libby. It was back and forth.
And sometime that afternoon, did you see Alex Murdoch?
Yes.
Okay. Tell the jury about that, please.
He came in the room,
You'd speak up, please, ma'am.
He came in the room and spoke like he always do.
Okay. And what did he tell you?
That he was sitting at the house. He was at the house.
Say it again.
He was at the house.
And I'm not 100% following you. He was telling you or saying to you that he was at the house?
Mm-hmm.
When?
The night of the murders.
The night of the murders?
Yes.
What was he telling you about that he was at the house the night of the murders?
That he'd been there 30 to 40 minutes.
Ooh, okay, chitty chitty bing bang on that one. So, timeline for this little segment we're watching. Murders have taken place. Visitation is going on. This is the conversation that she's talking about. Alec comes into the room. He is telling her in such a manner, I was at the house 30 to 45 minutes. Now, you saw her get emotional over that, right? This is the part about situations like this that just make my heart fall to my stomach, is when, because you can tell all the people that surrounded this family, we're going to hear from, the sister, another staff member. These are good people. This lady here, this is a good woman, loved this family, and tears her up to even have to sit here and probably be up there and testify to this information. And I can't imagine, like, when you sit here and you're like, people that you look up to, people that you loved, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to consider that they might have done something this horrendous, right? And so this moment of realization that I see in her when she's like, he came in and told me he was there 30 to 45 minutes, but she knows he wasn't. And that just feels like such an emotional thud to me. It gives me goosebumps. So let's continue to hear what she has to say about it.
Was he there 30 or 40 minutes that night?
Not to my recall.
Why are you crying, Miss Smith?
Because they're a good family, and I love working there.
No, that tears my heart out. And again, just what I said, this is just where you can see that the tentacles of crime and how far they reach and the devastation that they cause. And I mean, my God, the loss that is felt when you take the scandal away, when you take the drama away, all this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, all these people who, it sounds like they just had this tremendous love for this family, and, still sit here and, the good people, and, it goes to show. And we don't know the inner workings. We don't know how much these people dealt with. Obviously, she's looking after Miss Libby. We don't know how much she was dealing with this person, or that kind of stuff, right? Or they know the inner workings of, clearly they don't know the scandal that was going on until all this came out, right? The money and all this type of stuff. It's a shock and it's devastating to numerous people. And my heart just aches for her.
When you going to get married?
I was planning on getting married. I was planning on to.
And had Alex Murdaugh mentioned anything to you about your upcoming nuptials?
Yes.
And when was that?
The day afterwards, I'm thinking.
The day after this?
I'm thinking it was,
after
yes.
the conversation you just said? Where were you?
At the house.
And what did he say about your marriage, your upcoming potential marriage?
I heard you was getting married. I said, yes. He said, if I could, just let me know because the wedding's going to be expensive. I said, well, thank you.
The wedding's going to be expensive?
He said, wedding's going to be expensive. I said, well, thank you.
Did he offer to help?
Yes, he offered. That's the type of person, a good person.
And did he ever mention the wedding to you before?
No. Mm-mm.
Did you mention that to him before?
No,
Wow, okay. Chitty chitty bang bang again on that one. So we had this low key, bribery, but again, it's like, he was a good person. That's what a good person does. And so it's very interesting because people that exist out here like this. And when I say like this, like good people that would do stuff like this, but not like, allegedly wipe out their family and rip off half the town of people who they represented who are already victimized in some way. There are decent people out there is what I'm getting at that would do stuff like this without strings attached and things of this nature. So it's sad to sit here and see what he was trying to do, and luckily it did not work.
Hey, did he have a conversation, anything else about your job? Were you working at the school?
yes, at the school, yes.
Did Mr. Murdaugh mention to you about your school and your position there?
Yes.
Tell him what he said, please.
He said that, if you need a position at school, my good friend is there. I said, yeah, I know, worked at the school, the principal.
Now, again, this is how you're seeing probably he's maneuvered his whole life, and probably a lot of people in his family, right? This name goes generations back and deep, and this is, again, the good old boy in display right here. So it's like, he's sitting here trying to, buy and manipulate his way. And he probably got his way with a lot of things this way. And, if we go down the allegedly street of he's the one who did this and, trying to find motive, stuff like this, it makes you wonder when he had someone like Paul who was getting messy, who created all this stuff, who maybe was taking some of these chances away from him, he became more of like an opportunity as opposed to an obstacle to him, if that makes sense.
Had he called you on June 7th and told you he was coming?
Yes.
And he was right outside the house?
Yes.
And this morning at 6:30, he did not call you?
No.
How did you know he was on the premises?
He knocked on by the bedroom, near the window.
Knocked?
Yes, on the wall.
Well, did you hear him say anything after that?
He said, I'm outside.
Say it again?
I'm outside.
Had he ever been there at 6:30 in the morning before that? While you were working there?
No, sir.
Never.
No.
And tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what you observed that morning when you saw Alex Murdaugh.
He came in the white truck, came in the white truck.
Well, there's still funeral stuff's not in the world road. There's still funeral equipment in the yard.
Yes.
Like what?
The tent was still there, and the big old building that they put the food in had out there.
Like a food truck?
Yeah, food truck. Yes,
And was that blocking your view some?
Yes, yes.
So when you saw Alex Murdaugh this morning at 6:30, what did he do after he knocked on the door? Did you let him in?
Yes.
Then what did he do?
Came inside.
And was Miss Levy sleeping?
Yes, she was still asleep.
Okay. Did he go check on Miss Levy?
No, he didn't come in. No.
He didn't go check on her?
I can't remember.
Well, what did he do then?
He came inside.
Okay. And did he have anything, or was he holding anything?
He had a blue something in his hand.
Say that one more time.
A blue something in his hand. Something blue.
A blue something in his hand. And can you show me how he was holding it?
Like this.
Is it all right if I touch it?
Yeah, this one.
How was he doing it?
Like this. Like that.
Holding something like this?
Yes.
And what did it look like?
Like a blue tart, like a tart.
Blue?
Blue.
Okay. Was it vinyl?
It's like a tart that you put on a car, you keep your car covered up.
Big thing.
Yeah, blue. Yeah.
And was he holding it like this?
He was holding like this.
Could you tell if there was anything in it, or do you know?
No, I couldn't tell.
But not holding like this?
Mm-hmm.
Did he say anything when he walked in?
No.
Okay. What did he do when he walked in?
Went upstairs.
Okay. Again. Twiddly diddly dee. Chitty chitty bang bang on that one. Okay. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I might have to break out into a whole damn song. I mean, this right here, and again, it's almost irrelevant to me. Pretend it was like he just brought over a damn blue towel. The fact that he's knocking on the side of the damn house talking about, I'm here, come out. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is where I'm just like, but again, so I was just going to say this. You could see me stop in mid-thought because I was like, what was he thinking? And then I answered my question in my head. But I'm like, I'm recording a video. I actually need to share the thought with y'all and not just talk to myself. So I'm like, what was he thinking? Well, this is what he was thinking. He was like, I can manipulate my way out of this. Now, what is this? I don't know. You know, I wasn't there. Okay. You know, I still have tons of questions because, you know, at this point, and I'll talk more about this at the very end of the video, I still am just like, I'm sorry, I've got a lot of questions. The state has rested their case, and there's still something very fuzzy, very blurry, even though that, like, that spidey sense, that sixth feeling, that sixth sense, whatever you want to call it, that gut feeling, you know, it ain't good, but you don't get convictions from that. You know what I'm saying? We get convictions from evidence, and I'm like, you know, I'm like, I'm not feeling too confident about this, even though my gut with him, I don't want to be left in a room alone with him. Let's put it that way. Okay, now we are going to watch some more testimony. This is from a lady who was like a housekeeper, caregiver, whatever you want to call her, for the family. So she is going to give testimony talking about, you know, again, that eerie feeling, you know, like I was just talking about. She was at the house. She's just going to go into this and how things didn't seem right. And so many people that, I mean, I keep saying that where I'm like, something just doesn't seem right, you know? So it's interesting to hear from someone who worked with the family, who clearly, again, gets emotional. It speaks to the impact that this crime has had on not just the immediate family and, you know, loved ones, but clearly those who were like an extended type family. So let's hear what she has to say.
When I got inside, I didn't turn on any lights. I didn't do anything. I walked through the front door and I went in the kitchen. And I was kind of, when I looked in the kitchen, I kind of just stopped in my tracks and I looked at the stove. And I was kind of, I don't know what the word is. When I looked and I noticed the stove, that there was no pots on the stove, it was kind of unusual because usually when they ate dinner the night before, the pots usually stayed on the stove. Very, very seldom would she put, you know, certain meals in the refrigerator. A lot of times it was just left on the stove until the next day.
Okay, so I wanted to put this in here because this is one of those things where, again, this is someone who knows how the family works, right? The normal, everyday, today things. And I would argue to say she knows Miss Maggie probably in her habits, probably a little bit better than Alec did, right? Because she just has it down. It's like walking in there and being like, something's, the food's off. Again, that sixth sense, something's not right. This isn't how things normally are, but it keeps going.
And as I turned to go to the laundry room, I noticed that her pajamas were in the middle of the doorway, right in the middle, laid neatly in the middle of the doorway going into the laundry room. It was her pajama pants, a pair of underwear, and her pajama top.
Was that unusual?
That was very unusual.
Wow.
Because she wouldn't lay her clothes out like that, not in the middle of the door like that. It just didn't look right to me.
And you took care of the house?
Yes.
You took care of the clothes?
Yes.
And not to get too personal, but sometimes you can't help it. Were the underwear there with the pajamas unusual?
Yes.
Why?
She didn't wear underwear with her pajamas.
No underwear with pajamas.
Okay, now I want to point out a couple of things about this. First of all, the intuition, where she's like, okay, her clothes are laid out in such a way this is odd for Miss Maggie, that this is not normal. Again, so you start compounding all this stuff. Okay, what's up with the dishes and the food? That's not normal. It's like put away in a different way. But you can excuse one thing off, right? Like, well, maybe this happened. Then, I'm rounding the corner. Well, okay, hold on, Miss Maggie's pajamas are here. She never does that. And then there's some, underwear. Now, also, one thing that tells me that is assigned to me, and again, I ain't no body language expert, but that I'm like, she cares for Miss Maggie and respected her, is when he gets specific. And he's like, I'm not trying to get too personal, but why was the underwear thing weird? And she's like, you could tell she was thinking, oh, Miss Maggie would be so embarrassed. Like, she didn't like having to put it out there like that, but she knows she has to, right? She didn't want to have to embarrass Miss Maggie because, who, especially, Miss Maggie's not going to want her business out there like that. Regardless, because to me, I'm like, well, that would seem normal, but I get it. Nobody wants to be talking about their underwear up in open court, okay? Yeah, but you could tell that bothered her, and I thought that was such a human moment. And it told me, I was like, this is someone who has a respect for this woman, and that spoke volumes to me as to how I imagined that Maggie was with her.
But that struck you.
No underclothes with the pajamas.
But that struck you as unusual. They were there with the pajamas.
Yes, sir, because the underwear appeared to be clean, not dirty. They still had like fold marks.
And the pots, and I may have just missed it. You said, where would the pots end up when you found them?
After I looked at the pajamas on the floor, the way that they were set, I turned around and I said, well, I wonder where the pots are. So I opened the refrigerator door, and the pots were sitting inside the refrigerator with lids on them. And I was like, who did this? I don't know at that point, but that was not normal.
Again, so here she sums it up. Number one, again, key factor with this, she's like, well, the underwear appeared clean. It still had like fold marks in it. Okay, so on the underwear and the pajamas, it sounds to me like, and again, I don't know, we weren't there, and neither was she. This is just what she's walking into, but her intuition of she didn't say this, these are my words. To me, it seems like somebody walked in and just put her stuff out and got some underwear out of the drawer and put it on the floor to make it look like, this was thrown in there, like creating a scene, right? But then it was very telling to me when she's like, well, I went in and the pots and stuff were with lids on them were in the fridge or whatever she said. And she was like, my first thought was like, who did this? Like, it was that abnormal to her to be like, what? Again, this is someone who knows the normalcies of this, like the little habits like that make a person a person, you know what I mean? A house, a home, these kind of little things like this, how people operate. And so it's like, well, yeah, they might, whatever leftovers, it sounds like they might leave on the stove overnight till the next morning. I don't know. But it wasn't normal for them to be all put away and whatnot. So again, that's where it's like, so again, to me, it sounds like it was a constructed scene done by somebody who doesn't really know how that stuff is done. Again, I would venture to say this was probably done by a male, but even then so, a male who doesn't know how that stuff is done, right? You would think if it was Alec that he would know about the underwear thing, but again, you never know. That could be like a little tiny detail that, again, someone that does the laundry and does all this, 100% she's going to know. Like, yeah, Miss Maggie doesn't. That's not her thing, right? And at this point, you never know. They're not really staying together. They're staying at these two different places. All this, stuff is going on, right? So, I don't know. That the whole thing feels off to me, and I trust what these women have to say when they're like, yeah, something ain't right. Okay, now we're going to listen to Maggie's sister. Get your tissues ready if you don't already have them out.
I'm Marion Proctor, Proctor.
Now, I just wanted to put that little clip up there so we can have this as Marion Proctor. It's Maggie's sister, but also so we could see the smile that Alec has, like it's a damn family reunion. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, even if not guilty of all this type stuff, I don't know, it just sits wrong with me the way he's sitting there like, it's good to see ya. You know, and I'm just like, after what you've put this family through, just the financial stuff alone, no, you don't get to know. It sits wrong with me. But anyways, let's keep watching.
Maggie very involved in the family finances, to your knowledge?
Not at all.
Explain to the jury a little bit, if you would.
They had a comfortable life. Maggie was happy. It wasn't a lavish life, but it was a comfortable life.
So again, this part was interesting to me because we just, find out through this testimony. Yet Maggie, from her words, was a little bit disorganized. She didn't, wasn't all up in the money and all this kind of stuff. So I can see how this might have railroaded her to be like, well, checks are bouncing. What's going on? And, what? And how it was probably easy for Alec to pull off this financial stuff that he was doing, because I'm not sure how their household was run, if it was like, well, I'm the man and I do the money and that kind of stuff, but it sounds like it possibly was that way, and clearly if that was the case and she was kind of like a hands-off with that type situation, then of course he was just running amok, right? And according to him, like in his confession, he's spending $50,000 a week on pills. Come on.
Not Maggie's favorite place to be, but the boys loved it.
Sure. And in the summertime, where did Maggie typically prefer to be? Edisto? Or?
She loved the beach, yes.
So again, I just wanted to put this in there because we're hearing from the sister evidence, testimony of, Maggie didn't like being out here at this, I call it the hunting lodge, right? Obviously the boys are going to like being out there. It was Paul's, little pet project, that kind of thing. This is going to be like a rough and tough, we got ATVs, we got guns, we got dogs, we got property, we got, I get that, right? And Maggie wants to be at the beach. She feels better. And then obviously all this drama going down, it just sounds like it wasn't her gig. So again, why am I saying all this? Because it just points even more to the fact that she was there this particular evening when all this went down.
Did the family, and particularly Maggie, feel like what she felt some sort of backlash in the community or some sort of negative reaction that bothered her?
She did. That was a devastating blow for their family. It was a horrible accident, but it was an accident. And Maggie felt like the Hampton community had turned against her, and Paul was being mistreated. People would say mean things to him, call him names. Social media, inappropriate things were said to him. Inappropriate things were said to him when he went back to school.
Now this I wanted to put up simply for the fact of kind of showing this whole dynamic of she felt like, the community's turned its back on me, on us, whatever. There is this vibe going on, because that would obviously be a potential motive, this type situation. Now it's an entirely other situation going on with the young lady that lost her life, and the whole thing of it's just an accident and Paul's getting called names and so on and so forth, because at the end of the day, she lost her life, right? But that's a whole other video and a whole other topic, so we're just gonna keep sticking to this right here. And at the end of the day, there was this dynamic going on. There was this bad blood, right? This young lady lost her life. Paul was mixed up in this whole court case with the civil suits. Alec was testifying that, well, earlier that day I was at the office filing motions, for the civil suit, when reality is that he was getting confronted about, some of this drama going on with all the financial stuff. So regardless what it is, Paul was in major hot water and got the family name into some serious hot water over this boating accident.
Maggie called me that day and said she was at Edisto. She had some men working on the house, and Mr. Randolph was not doing well at all, and Alec really wanted her to come home that night. She hadn't planned on it, but that he needed her to come home, and Paul was going to be there too. And I said, well, Maggie, I said, Alec and his dad are super close, and that's probably what you should do. Go be with him if he needs you.
She said that Alec wanted her to come home that night?
Yes.
What was your understanding of Maggie's intent or what they were going to do that night?
I was under the impression they were going over to Alameda to visit his parents.
Okay, so, whoa, big mama jamma on that one. So here you go, coming from the sister. Now, if you've watched my other videos on this, I don't have a reason to disbelieve what she is saying. So she is sitting here saying Alec wanted her to come over. Paul's even going to be here. Remember, Paul had these health problems, but they were kind of worried about them. And so Paul's going to be here. You need to come over. You know, mom's all worried. We're going to all go over there. So it's her understanding that they were going to ride over there, which is what makes it so weird that, number one, when he shows up to mom's, Maggie's not there. And number two, he shows up to mom's. Caretaker's like, oh, she really didn't even know he was there. You know, there's no sign of like, oh yeah, we really needed him to come visit her. It's been a rough day. No, we're not hearing any of this, right? So this is major bombshell to me because I'm just like, okay, how convenient that this is the day that he's like, I need you to come over here. You know, I want you to go do this. And it just happens to be the day that whatever has happened that took the lives of Paul and Maggie.
You encouraged her to go to Moza.
I did.
Was that the last time you talked to her?
Yes.
Bless her heart. How would she know? She was doing the right thing. She was encouraging her sister, Miss Maggie, to go, you know, be with Alec. You know what? They're close. He needs you. No one would ever even think that this would happen. And I mean, again, you know how I talk about how far these crimes reach and the devastation they cause. Not only loss, but look at what she's going to have on her shoulders. Like, I encouraged her to go. You know, I mean, bless her heart. I hope she can find in herself to know that that's not her fault, if that makes sense.
I did at one point ask him if Maggie had suffered, and he assured me that she did not. Now, I don't know that I think that's true.
Okay. So very interesting here where he's like, you know, oh, she didn't suffer. Now, again, I'm not going to read too much into the whole thing of, well, he must have done it since he told her. You know, I mean, this could be something normal that somebody would say. However, I do, you know, obviously read into that a little bit. But what I mostly read into this is when she said, however, I don't know if that's necessarily true. She seems very reserved, very quiet. And to me, this is like a very, like, you know, I don't think she believes much of what Alec has to say at this point anymore, right? After all the stuff that's come forward. And so, yeah, for her to sit here and say, I don't really know if that's true at this point or not, but also to have that and to imagine your sister or someone you know, family, blood, leaving the earth this way. And of course you would want to think that they didn't know what happened, that they just left in an instant. And to wonder the rest of your life, like, did they suffer? Did they know? It must be heartbreaking.
And then later I asked him, I said, Alec, do you have any idea who's done this? I said, we have got to find out who could do this. And he said that he did not know who it was, but he felt like whoever did it had thought about it for a really long time.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that? Now, we also know, let's go down the road of he did it. Well, a really long time for him could be a week, right? Because, my gosh, we heard from his confession with Cousin Eddie in the roadside incident, they cooked that up in 30 minutes, right? So it's like a really long time could be 24 hours in Alec time. You know, we don't know what he's talking about. But again, like, what, I don't know who did it, but I think whoever did it, they've been planning this for a while. That just sounds made up. You know, it just sounds like something you would say to create a narrative.
Were you ever privy or have any discussion with anything Alex said about whether or not he went to the kennels that night?
I personally did not talk to him about that, but he told my mom that he had dinner with Maggie and Paul and then he took a nap, which he did. That was kind of a routine. He would lay down on the sofa at night after work and take a nap.
But he said he never went to the kennels.
Correct.
Okay, so more testimony about the kennels. Now, we can't fault the man for sitting on the sofa and taking a nap. I mean, that's kind of what we built the whole damn channel around, right? And I mean, personally, I get that after dinner, right? So that part I understand. But regardless, again, testimony after testimony. Oh, I never went to the kennels. Even coming out of his own mouth. But then it's like, yeah, we kind of got a Snapchat with that. Also, a lot of people have pointed this out, which I totally forgot about. If you follow the Chandler Halderson case, I did some videos on that, but again, just go on back either in my videos or Law and Crime. Horrifying case, but Snapchat took him down too. And the damn Ring camera. Probably Walmart too. That one does it too. But again, Snapchat. Somebody also said in the comment section, Snapchat is the new Walmart and taking these criminals out. You ain't lying, okay? It's taking people out left and right. And in this particular case, what we're talking about now, Snapchat it's putting him there at the kennel. So, I mean, all these people, I never went to the kennels. I never went to the kennels. Okay, but you were there.
After your conversation with Maggie, your last conversation with her, did it strike you as odd that she didn't go to the kennels or go to Alameda with Alec?
Yes,
And why is that?
because that's the whole reason she went home that night.
And I think that this echoes everybody's sentiments with this. It's like, if that's the whole reason she went over there, then why didn't she go? You know, it doesn't make sense. And again, if that's the whole reason she went over there and she didn't go, why didn't you drive down to the kennels to see why they weren't answering the phone? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel right.
Did you think from your conversation with Maggie that she was planning to see Mr. Randolph too?
I thought so. I didn't realize that Mr. Randolph wasn't there at the time.
That was a surprise to you?
Again, what a sinking feeling it must have been to all the people involved. And again, you know, we're hearing it all come together, like in a courtroom and all this type of stuff and in the media. They didn't have this. They were living this out. So like for her to like have this come together in real time to be like, well, she didn't go. Mr. Randolph wasn't there. You know, more and more like, well, what was the point other than getting Maggie out to the property?
We would talk about the boat case, and he was very intent on clearing Paul's name.
What did he say?
He said that his number one goal was clearing Paul's name. And I thought that was so strange because my number one goal was to find out who killed my sister and Paul.
Exactly. I mean, sing it, sister, from the rooftops. These are the little things, and again, I don't know if this man's guilty or not, right? I wasn't there, but it's that kind of stuff right there where it's like, okay, and all the aftermath of this, and you're still trying to clear your son's name. Maybe it's like, you know, I want his name to live on or whatever. Well, don't we need to find out who did this? Or do we already know who did it, and we've just moved on from that and are trying to?
You ever act scared or afraid that the real killers were out there somewhere or anything like that, or was he concerned with the boat case?
We were afraid. We didn't know what was going on. My family was scared. I was scared for Alec and Buster. I felt like they needed protection. I think everybody was afraid. And Alec didn't seem to be afraid.
And there you have it, right? This again is that feeling of, if this went on and this happened, you would be afraid, but Alec didn't seem to be afraid, right? I mean, Buster should be, right? I mean, anyone would be. And I was like, surely they put him in hiding and all this. But again, maybe you're not afraid because you know who did it, and you know they're not going to do it to you because maybe it was you. Or maybe it was somebody else that you had something to do with. I don't know. I wasn't there. But what I do know is that, again, something doesn't feel right. And listening to all three of these women who, number one, are so brave and strong to get up here and tell their truth. Because, again, they're getting up here and sitting across from a man that was a friend, an employer, a brother-in-law, a loved one, a cared for one, all these things. Someone they looked up to, at one point an upstanding community member in everyone's eyes, and has completely fallen from grace and is now accused of doing something so heinous and horrendous. In addition to all the financial crimes, which are heinous and horrendous in their own right, I can't imagine what that must be like. And having to come to terms with this person might have done this to a person that we loved and cared for. I can't imagine what that would be like. But listening to them all come up with the same thing of there's something not right with this. Something doesn't add up. It doesn't feel right. There's manipulation. There's this, there's that. And this case seems to be so full of that. Now again, if you've been following me for this, yes, I do have a bias. I do think he had something to do with this. I do personally think he had his hands in it. I don't know if somebody else was involved, and I don't know 100% if he was involved. I wasn't there. But this does not mean that I think that, they're going to get a conviction out of it. I think it's been, to be quite honest, a messy scene in the courtroom. I'm very curious to see what the defense has to say. I'm recording this on Sunday. The state has rested, and so we're going to see what comes up next week. Y'all are going to have to pick me up off the floor if he gets on the stand, which there's been rumors that he will, and at this point I anticipate him to, because I think one thing that I've seen, especially through these women's voices, is Alec is someone who, even before this, he's someone who, plays the game, plays that good old boy system. Hey, your wedding's expensive. Well, come on now. Hey, I know so-and-so at school. I can get you in there. This is how this works, right? And this is not just this is just how things go, right? Unfortunately. And so this is what he's done. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And this goes generations back with his family, I'm sure. So he knows how to play this game. And he's probably rested on his good name and his ability to play this game, thinking he could get out of this. And unfortunately, when you start robbing everyone blind around you and screwing everybody over, the buck stops here, buggo. So anyways, let me know what you think down in the comment section. If you're still watching, drop some hearts for all the victims, both who lost their lives and financial victims of this family, of this man. And that's it. So there's that. And until next time, Roscoe and I, we'll see you soon.